Deep space sensors along the outer boundary of the solar system were the first to fail. They did not go dark or transmit alarms. They simply stopped returning meaningful data, overwhelmed by the sudden arrival of mass so vast that it bent every instrument's calibration. For a fraction of a second, the space beyond Pluto appeared empty. Then reality folded, and the alien Armada emerged. Millions of ships spilled into normal space in perfect geometric formation, their hulls reflecting no light, their drives warping gravity itself. Each vessel dwarfed Earth's largest orbital station. Together, they eclipsed entire star systems. The solar observatories struggled to process the scale, their predictive models collapsing under numbers too large to reconcile. Within seconds, every command center on Earth received the same impossible reading. An extinction-level fleet had entered the solar system, and it was headed directly toward Earth. The first emergency broadcast tore across global networks before official confirmation could even be issued. Stock markets crashed in under 30 seconds. Flights were grounded midair. Entire cities froze as people stared at their screens, trying to understand what words like Armada and planetary annihilation potential actually meant. Governments activated continuity of civilization protocols that had only ever existed on paper. Shelters were opened. Military reserves were mobilized. Religious centers overflowed. In streets from New York to Shanghai, from Lagos to Sao Paulo, people poured out of their homes, some praying, some screaming, some simply standing in silence, staring at a sky that looked unchanged but now felt hostile. Humanity had always feared invasion. Now, it had arrived, and the scale of it erased any illusion of survival. Earth's combined defense grid activated automatically. Orbital platforms powered their rail cannons. Lunar missile silos opened. Plasma arrays aligned. Experimental antimatter torpedoes were armed. Every classified weapon humanity possessed, including those officially denied, spun toward the incoming threat. Mars Command, stationed far beyond Earth's defensive perimeter, initiated emergency fleet mobilization, but even their fastest vessels would take precious minutes to arrive. And the Armada was already crossing the orbit of Neptune. The first human strike was launched before diplomatic channels could even be attempted. Hundreds of kinetic kill vehicles accelerated to relativistic speeds, forming a dense spear of tungsten and antimatter. They impacted the alien fleet in a synchronized barrage capable of fracturing moons. The result was nothing. The projectiles flattened against invisible barriers, their energy bleeding harmlessly into the void. No explosion followed. No debris. No visible damage. The alien formation did not even ripple. Next came the orbital lasers, beams of focused stellar intensity converging on individual warships. Entire squadrons of platforms fired in unison, bathing the fleet in continuous light. The beams vanished against alien shielding as if swallowed. Sensors showed no temperature change, no energy spike, no indication the attacks had even registered. Earth escalated without hesitation. Nuclear arsenals launched from hidden silos and deep-sea platforms. Detonations brighter than the sun erupted in the void, yet the alien vessels emerged untouched, their shields undisturbed, their formation unbroken. As the Armada crossed Uranus's orbit, Earth's last experimental weapons were unleashed. Graviton destabilizers twisted spacetime into collapsing knots. Exotic particle cannons fired streams of matter that should not have existed. Prototype reality disruption arrays attempted to fracture local physics. None of it mattered. Alien countermeasures neutralized every effect, their technology operating on principles far beyond human comprehension. Within minutes, Earth's outer defense platforms were systematically erased, their destruction executed with mechanical precision. Fleets that had taken decades to construct vanished in silent flashes. Lunar installations disintegrated. Deep space stations were shredded before their crews could even transmit final messages. Panic reached critical mass. Emergency channels filled with fragmented broadcasts, overlapping orders, and sobbing voices. Civil defense networks collapsed under the weight of global fear. In cities, crowds surged toward shelters that could not possibly hold them. Riots broke out where supplies ran short. Hospitals overflowed with those injured in the chaos. Yet even amid the disorder, millions simply stopped moving, staring upward, knowing that no bunker, no wall, no prayer could shield them from what was coming. The alien fleet reached Jupiter's orbit in under 4 minutes. Their advance was methodical, calculated, and unstoppable. Energy signatures indicated the gradual charging of weapons whose output exceeded planetary binding energy. These were not invasion tools. They were extermination engines. Their purpose was not conquest. It was erasure. Mars Command issued its final estimate. Their fleets would arrive in 32 minutes. Earth had less than 8. Planetary governments released humanity's final transmission. A single, unified message broadcast in every known language, sent toward the stars and across internal networks. It carried apologies, farewells, fragments of music, records of art, science, history, and hope. Archives were launched into deep space aboard autonomous probes, carrying the story of a species that had lived, dreamed, and failed to reach the stars before the stars came for them. As the Armada crossed the orbit of Mars, the sky above Earth shimmered faintly. Not with visible light, but with distortion, as though reality itself were tightening. Gravitational readings spiked. Magnetic fields fluctuated unpredictably. The planet's core vibrated with a frequency no seismograph could classify. Deep beneath continents and oceans, structures older than civilization, older than recorded history, older even than humanity's myths, began to stir. No alarms announced it. No weapon systems activated. No commands were issued. The alien fleet completed its encirclement of Earth. Millions of ships locked into firing position, their colossal weapons aligned toward the planet's surface. Energy reservoirs surged toward critical thresholds. The final countdown began. On Earth, silence spread. Across continents, voices fell away. Crowds stopped running. In that last moment, fear gave way to stillness, as though humanity itself was holding its breath. Families clutched each other. Strangers reached out, hands trembling, seeking connection before annihilation. Billions of eyes lifted toward a sky that remained blue, peaceful, and impossibly unchanged. Mars Command prepared to engage, knowing they would arrive only in time to witness extinction. And then, without warning, the universe around Earth shifted. Space itself folded inward, tightening around the planet like an unseen fist. Sensors across the solar system overloaded as an immeasurable pressure swept outward from Earth's core. No flash of light heralded it. No roar accompanied it. There was only a moment of absolute, unnatural stillness, as though time had hesitated. And in that suspended instant, humanity stood at the edge of oblivion, unaware that extinction had already been replaced by something far more incomprehensible. The stillness shattered without sound. There was no explosion, no wave of light, no violent release of energy. Instead, space around Earth tightened, compressing reality itself into a razor-thin boundary that wrapped the planet like an invisible shell. Instruments across the solar system screamed in cascading failures as physical constants spiked beyond survivable thresholds. Gravity vectors twisted. Time synchronization across satellites fractured. Entire sensor arrays burned out trying to interpret data that violated every known law of physics. For a fraction of a second, Earth ceased to behave like a planet, and instead resembled a singularity restrained by something vastly more precise than force. Within that compressed boundary, a pulse emerged. It was not energy. It carried no heat, no radiation, no detectable particles. It was a distortion of probability, a collapsing of all possible outcomes into a single, absolute conclusion. The pulse expanded outward from Earth at a speed that bypassed measurement, propagating through space not by movement, but by rewriting the conditions that allowed movement to exist. Where it passed, space-time itself reconfigured, eliminating the possibility that the alien fleet had ever arrived. The first vessels to vanish were those closest to Earth. They did not explode. They did not fragment. They simply ceased. One moment, millions of warships filled the sky. The next, entire formations were gone, erased so completely that even their gravitational signatures disappeared. There was no debris, no radiation bloom, no residual energy field. The ships were not destroyed. Their existence had been removed. The pulse continued outward. Squadrons further away vanished in cascading silence. Sensors recorded brief distortions where each fleet had been, followed by a vacuum so perfect it appeared unnatural. Energy reservoirs collapsed into nothing. Shield harmonics destabilized and folded inward. Command networks lost every node simultaneously. Entire battle groups blinked out of reality, as though they had never been constructed, never crewed, never launched. Across the Armada, confusion reigned for less than a microsecond before command structures ceased to exist. Artificial intelligences failed to generate error logs. Organic crews had no time to react. One moment, the greatest invasion force ever assembled dominated the inner solar system. The next, it was gone, erased with such absolute precision that even the memory of its mass began to fade from localized spacetime curvature. The pulse reached the outer perimeter of the fleet. The last alien vessels, positioned at extreme distance, registered something impossible, not an attack, not an energy surge, but a collapse of probability itself. Their sensors attempted to predict incoming effects, but every future path ended in the same result: non-existence. Defensive systems activated, shield matrices overloaded, and emergency warp drives spooled to escape. None of it mattered. The pulse did not strike. It rewrote. In the span of a single Planck interval, the final remnants of the Armada vanished, leaving behind a void so pristine it reflected nothing. Silence fell across the solar system. Where millions of ships had encircled Earth, there was now empty space. No wreckage. No shockwave. No lingering radiation. Just the distant glow of stars and the gentle arc of Earth's atmosphere, untouched. On Earth, global defense networks froze in stunned suspension. Weapon platforms held firing solutions that no longer had targets. Missile batteries remained armed, awaiting commands that no longer made sense. Orbital stations rotated slowly, their crews staring into space where an armada had existed moments earlier. Across every command center, analysts scrambled to reconcile incoming data. Their screens displayed impossible readings: 0 hostile mass, 0 energy signatures, 0 debris fields. Mars Command aborted its emergency jump. Fleet admirals demanded immediate confirmation. Multiple independent sensor arrays verified the same result. The Armada was gone. Completely. Not scattered. Not disabled. Not destroyed in any conventional sense. Gone. No human weapon had fired. Mars tactical logs confirmed no engagement orders had been executed. No missiles launched. No rail cannons discharged. No energy arrays activated. Earth-based systems likewise showed no firing sequences. The annihilation had occurred without any recorded military action. The greatest invasion force the galaxy had ever assembled had been erased by something that did not appear on any weapons manifest. Confusion spread faster than fear. Strategic models collapsed. Analysts reran simulations, searching for explanations that did not exist. Exotic physics theories were pulled from classified archives, none capable of accounting for what had occurred. Energy conservation laws had been violated. Causality loops had collapsed. Temporal coherence models failed entirely. According to recorded data, the fleet had been present, then abruptly had not, without any intervening process. Across interstellar monitoring networks, distant civilizations registered the event. Gravitational observatories detected a solar system-wide distortion that propagated outward, collapsing local spacetime gradients across multiple light-years. Subspace communication relays overloaded. Long-range sensor buoys recorded a cascading failure of quantum coherence, a signature associated only with cosmic-scale phenomena previously theorized but never observed. Entire regions of space experienced brief but total communication blackouts. Within minutes, reports flooded galactic data exchanges. The Armada was missing. Not defeated. Not damaged. Missing. The empire that had launched it activated emergency status across all sectors. Their command authorities demanded explanations from navigational beacons, battle coordinators, and forward intelligence networks. Every channel returned the same answer: the fleet had ceased to exist. No battle logs. No wreckage. No transmission fragments. Even their quantum entanglement trackers, designed to monitor vessels across dimensions, showed complete termination without residual trace. Fear rippled outward through interstellar civilization. Trade routes altered course. Exploration fleets halted. Border patrols withdrew toward core systems. Entire empires locked down their space, activating ancient defense arrays and planetary shields that had not been powered for millennia. In war councils across the galaxy, a single question echoed: what force could erase an armada without leaving evidence? The answer pointed uncomfortably toward Earth. Within hours, Earth's designation shifted across alien databases. Where it had once been labeled as a developing species with limited technological capacity, it was now flagged as an unknown existential hazard. Risk projections spiked beyond acceptable thresholds. Entire star systems were reclassified as restricted zones. Automated navigation networks began rerouting traffic around the Sol system, creating vast void corridors in interstellar space. On Earth, disbelief slowly gave way to stunned survival. People emerged from shelters, scanning skies that were once again calm. Emergency broadcasts shifted from evacuation to verification, struggling to explain what no one could understand. In cities, crowds gathered in silence, staring upward, waiting for the Armada to reappear, convinced it must be a trick, a pause before destruction resumed. But the sky remained empty. Hours passed. Then days. The threat did not return. Humanity had survived. Yet beneath the relief, a deeper unease began to spread. Earth's survival had not been earned through resistance or strategy. It had been granted by a force no one understood, wielded by a mechanism no one controlled. The Armada's annihilation had not felt like victory. It felt like an execution carried out by something ancient, precise, and incomprehensibly powerful. And deep beneath Earth's crust, systems that had not stirred in geological ages settled back into dormancy, their purpose fulfilled, their presence unknown, leaving behind only a question that would haunt humanity for generations. What, exactly, had just saved them? Deep beneath Earth's crust, far below magma flows and tectonic plates, something ancient stirred. Not with noise or violence, but with silent precision. Structures embedded within layers of rock older than recorded history unlocked themselves in perfect sequence, their mechanisms activating according to protocols written before humanity had discovered fire. These machines did not awaken suddenly. They resumed. As though they had merely been waiting, patiently, across millions of years, for a single condition to be met. Seismic instruments registered faint harmonic vibrations radiating from planetary depths, but the signals defied known geological patterns. Their frequencies aligned with no natural processes. The vibrations pulsed in deliberate intervals, synchronizing across continental boundaries, threading through mantle and core alike. For a brief moment, Earth behaved less like a planet and more like a singular system. Hidden facilities buried beneath mountain ranges, ocean trenches, and polar ice caps unlocked sealed chambers that had not been accessed since before human civilization began. Automated drones descended into caverns carved with geometric precision, mapping structures whose materials resisted every known method of analysis. Surfaces reflected no light. Edges remained impossibly sharp. Internal power signatures suggested energy densities rivaling stellar cores, yet produced no heat. The machines had not been built by humanity. Global scientific coalitions scrambled to access sealed archives that suddenly unlocked themselves, triggered by the same unknown signal. Encrypted databases, hidden within quantum-secured systems and dormant satellites, activated simultaneously. Their contents stunned every intelligence agency and research institution on Earth. Data streams unfolded into coherent records spanning millions of years, authored by a civilization that had ceased to exist before Earth's continents assumed their current forms. The records described a species whose technological mastery had surpassed all known galactic powers. They had mapped entire star clusters, engineered suns, and folded spacetime to create artificial universes. Yet their greatest discovery had not been energy or matter. It had been prediction. They had uncovered a method of projecting evolutionary outcomes across cosmic timescales, calculating the developmental trajectories of life-bearing worlds. Among billions of surveyed planets, one anomaly stood apart: Earth. Primitive primates evolving beneath unstable skies had exhibited statistical deviations that defied conventional modeling. Their adaptability, social complexity, problem-solving capacity, and psychological resilience formed a convergence point unlike any other species observed. Simulations extended across millions of years revealed an unavoidable conclusion: given time, humans would surpass every known civilization. Not through brute strength or raw intelligence, but through relentless adaptability. Humans thrived in chaos. They learned from catastrophe. They rebuilt after collapse. Where other species stagnated in comfort or perished under stress, humans advanced. Each extinction event, each climate shift, each planetary disaster refined them further. The ancient civilization reached a decision that would define Earth's future. They transformed the planet into a protected crucible. A planetary-scale defense system was embedded deep within Earth's mantle, integrated into the planet's geological structure. Its purpose was not conquest. It was preservation. Not to shield humanity from hardship, but to ensure their survival against external extinction-level threats. The system remained dormant unless triggered by a precise threshold, a force capable of erasing human civilization entirely. The Armada's arrival had crossed that line. Earth itself had responded. The defense protocol was not a weapon in any conventional sense. It did not project force outward. It manipulated the foundational rules governing existence. By altering probability matrices and causal coherence, it collapsed hostile entities out of the timeline altogether. The alien fleet had not been destroyed. It had been removed from the sequence of events that allowed it to exist. This mechanism required no sustained power output. It operated by accessing pre-configured space-time anchor points embedded within the fabric of reality. The ancient civilization had woven these anchors throughout Earth's planetary structure, binding them to the planet's magnetic field, gravitational core, and rotational harmonics. When activated, the system resonated through these anchors, generating a localized causality inversion field that nullified targeted objects across multiple dimensions simultaneously. To any observer, the effect appeared instantaneous. In truth, it operated outside conventional time. The system's creators had understood that true defense did not lie in stronger weapons, but in denying the possibility of attack altogether. Why they chose to protect humanity remained a matter of debate. Some researchers believed the ancient civilization saw humans as successors, a species capable of inheriting galactic stewardship. Others believed they feared humanity's future potential, choosing containment rather than destruction. Still others argued the decision had been purely statistical. Humanity represented the highest probability of producing a civilization capable of confronting cosmic-scale threats beyond current comprehension. Earth was not merely a protected world. It was a seed vault for the galaxy's future. The implications shattered every political, philosophical, and religious framework humanity had built. Humanity was no longer a fragile species clinging to survival on an unremarkable planet. They were the focus of a contingency plan older than their sun, safeguarded by technology so advanced it bordered on the divine. Yet the system was not absolute. Records indicated strict limitations. The protocol would only activate under existential threat. Lesser invasions, orbital bombardments, or regional extinctions would not trigger intervention. Humanity was still expected to defend itself, to struggle, to evolve. Only when total annihilation became inevitable would Earth itself act. The ancient civilization had not gifted humanity safety. They had gifted them time. The realization unsettled world leaders and scientists alike. Humanity lived atop a machine capable of erasing civilizations. Its presence meant Earth would likely never fall to invasion. But it also meant humanity was being observed, measured, and perhaps tested by standards far beyond their comprehension. Mars Command established permanent monitoring arrays to detect any fluctuations within Earth's planetary field. Research stations drilled deeper than ever before, attempting to map the full extent of the buried structures. None reached even the outer layers of the system. Materials resisted melting, cutting, and quantum destabilization. The deeper probes descended, the more physical laws degraded, until instruments failed entirely. The defense network was not merely buried within Earth. It was fused to the planet's existence. Humanity grappled with the psychological weight of survival. Celebration swept across cities, but it carried an undercurrent of unease. They had been spared, not through courage or ingenuity, but by a force they did not control. Their survival had been conditional, granted by ancient architects whose motives remained partially obscured. Yet beneath the fear, something else began to grow. Pride. Against impossible odds, humanity had been deemed worthy of protection by a civilization that had transcended mortality itself. Earth was no longer a forgotten world orbiting an average star. It was a cornerstone of galactic history, a silent axis around which futures revolved. The galaxy had learned to fear Earth. Humanity was only beginning to understand why. The system's creators had understood that true defense did not lie in stronger weapons, but in denying the possibility of attack altogether. Why they chose to protect humanity remained a matter of debate. Some researchers believed the ancient civilization saw humans as successors, a species capable of inheriting galactic stewardship. Others believed they feared humanity's future potential, choosing containment rather than destruction. Still others argued the decision had been purely statistical. Humanity represented the highest probability of producing a civilization capable of confronting cosmic-scale threats beyond current comprehension. Earth was not merely a protected world. It was a seed vault for the galaxy's future. The implications shattered every political, philosophical, and religious framework humanity had built. Humanity was no longer a fragile species clinging to survival on an unremarkable planet. They were the focus of a contingency plan older than their sun, safeguarded by technology so advanced it bordered on the divine. Yet the system was not absolute. Records indicated strict limitations. The protocol would only activate under existential threat. Lesser invasions, orbital bombardments, or regional extinctions would not trigger intervention. Humanity was still expected to defend itself, to struggle, to evolve. Only when total annihilation became inevitable would Earth itself act. The ancient civilization had not gifted humanity safety. They had gifted them time. The realization unsettled world leaders and scientists alike. Humanity lived atop a machine capable of erasing civilizations. Its presence meant Earth would likely never fall to invasion. But it also meant humanity was being observed, measured, and perhaps tested by standards far beyond their comprehension. Mars Command established permanent monitoring arrays to detect any fluctuations within Earth's planetary field. Research stations drilled deeper than ever before, attempting to map the full extent of the buried structures. None reached even the outer layers of the system. Materials resisted melting, cutting, and quantum destabilization. The deeper probes descended, the more physical laws degraded, until instruments failed entirely. The defense network was not merely buried within Earth. It was fused to the planet's existence. Humanity grappled with the psychological weight of survival. Celebration swept across cities, but it carried an undercurrent of unease. They had been spared, not through courage or ingenuity, but by a force they did not control. Their survival had been conditional, granted by ancient architects whose motives remained partially obscured. Yet beneath the fear, something else began to grow. Pride. Against impossible odds, humanity had been deemed worthy of protection by a civilization that had transcended mortality itself. Earth was no longer a forgotten world orbiting an average star. It was a cornerstone of galactic history, a silent axis around which futures revolved. The galaxy had learned to fear Earth. Humanity was only beginning to understand why. Defense networks were modernized. Mars Command expanded its fleet. Deep space exploration accelerated. Colonization efforts intensified. Humanity no longer viewed the stars as distant curiosities or unreachable goals. They were a frontier awaiting inheritance. The galaxy's sudden fear opened corridors once closed. Trade routes shifted, allowing human explorers to traverse regions once dominated by ancient empires. Where humanity traveled, caution followed. Alien outposts greeted human vessels with reserved respect. No provocations occurred. Even minor skirmishes vanished from interstellar politics. The message was clear without ever being spoken: Earth was not to be tested. Over decades, the memory of the annihilated Armada hardened into legend. Among alien civilizations, it became a cautionary tale, whispered across generations. A reminder that power need not announce itself. That the most dangerous forces in the universe often remain unseen. That patience and silence can conceal dominance beyond imagination. For humanity, the event became a defining moment in cultural memory. Not as a triumph of force, but as a revelation of potential. The realization that their species had been measured across millions of years and found worthy of preservation ignited a collective determination to justify that choice. Humanity pushed outward, not as conquerors but as builders. They terraformed barren worlds. Revived dying ecosystems. Established research enclaves within nebulae and along pulsar orbits. They studied black holes, dark matter, and cosmic inflation, pursuing knowledge not for power, but for understanding. Each discovery reinforced the ancient projections. Humanity's strength lay not in domination, but in relentless curiosity and adaptation. Yet beneath all progress, the planetary defense system remained. Deep under Earth's crust, its silent structures continued to wait, monitoring probability flows, tracking existential threat vectors, and maintaining space-time anchors that ensured its readiness. It did not sleep. It observed. And it judged. Humanity lived atop a cosmic safeguard capable of erasing civilizations, and for the first time in their history, they understood the weight of restraint. Power did not grant permission to rule. It demanded responsibility. The galaxy would remember the day an Armada vanished before Mars could intervene. They would speak of Earth in careful tones, marking its star on maps with warning glyphs older than their languages. They would teach their children that some worlds are not meant to be conquered, not because they are weak, but because they are protected by forces beyond comprehension. And humanity would remember the moment they stood on the brink of extinction, only to learn that survival had never been accidental. The Armada came for Earth, expecting conquest. Instead, the universe itself answered. And from that day forward, the stars learned a single, unshakable truth. Earth was never meant to fall.